Hi, welcome to another Suicide Wid video. Today we're discussing the things that we were able to let go of after our people passed and the things that we've still held on to.
I'm Carrie. My husband Joe died in April 2019.
I'm Roberta. My husband David died in August 2019.
My name is Kelly and my person Chad passed away in August of 2019.
My name is Mel, and my person passed away in November of 2019.
My name is Kim, and my wife Ann died April 2020. And then Carrie's going to start us off with the things that we kept.
So when Joe died, we were in the middle of moving and selling our house. So we had already packed the majority of our things into boxes, labeled them, sealed them up for the movers. After he died, I could not bring myself to go back to the house. And so I had friends and family finish just throwing whatever wasn't in those moving boxes into bins. And my mom took them to her house and just kept them there until I was ready to go through them. And then basically every time I'd fly back to Arizona throughout that first year, I would kind of pick at it and go through it. And it became really overwhelming to do that every single time I went. And I think it's hard for other people to understand if they haven't had a loss like this, how hard it is to see those items and make those decisions right away when you're really feeling like you're just in the midst of chaos. And then what I noticed that I really held on to right away were his clothes, anything that smelled like him, any of our favorite things together. And he had a lot of drawings and sketches that he was working on. And I kept every single one of those, of course, and had those framed and hanging in my house. And then one of the things that really surprised me in all of the things that we went through was that I really wanted our toaster. And I made sure that when people were picking up all of our final things in the house and getting it moved for us, that, or for me, that the toaster was in that container when it came to Hawaii. And really it's about all the things that kind of take me back to a place that was good. And, making breakfast in the morning was one of those things. And anything that smelled like him, those were really the two things that meant the most to me that I made sure to keep.
I kept everything my husband made. He was a furniture maker when I met him, and he made some lamps as well and different things around the house. I've kept the books by his favorite author and some of his favorite woodworking books. His hats, we used to go on trips and he would get a baseball hat pretty much every time we went someplace. T-shirts, things like that kind of meant something. They we bought them together a lot of times, and the knickknacks and things that were important to him. I kept things like that. And one of my favorites, I have his cowboy boots that he wore on the first date when we first met. And my stepdaughter actually asked if she could have those. So I have them here for her someday when she's ready to take them. It was pretty clear for me what things I want to hold on to, things that have meaning to me personally.
One of the things that I was able to let go of from early on, it took me maybe a month or two, but I had no connection whatsoever to his pants, his shoes, his shorts. Those things just kind of no trouble. I could let go of those. I did hold on to other things, t-shirts especially, because he was always wearing t-shirts, so his smell was very much on those. But it took me different times over the months to let go of certain things and to really look at things and say, okay, what would his oldest son like maybe, and put those things aside? What would his second son like? And then what should I keep for my daughter? And so I kind of looked at it that way and have held on to things for them. But there were definitely unsentimental things that I didn't have an issue with, especially with the certain things in the bathroom. Those are just generic, but other things, his deodorant, his hair clay, those all had so much memory in those scents for me that I ended up holding on to those.
For mine, I was a little bit mean to myself, to be quite honest. But I also had a therapeutic purpose. So I got rid of everything pretty much the first week. On like day 3, I had everything packed and ready for the kids. Um, Part of that was because we were a week away from getting the final like marriage license. We were domestic partners. And I think part of me felt like I needed to give everything away to the family immediately. Um, but another part of me, I work in conflict zones normally for daytime, and I just needed to be myself. I needed to manage chaos. And I'd heard stories about people remembering the smell of somebody when they walked in the closet. And I was so scared of that I managed it all the first week. All of things were gone. I had the entire apartment like washed that day, like all the sheets, all the pillowcase, everything was in the washer. I was so scared of what that would feel like. um and it's funny, like all this time later, thinking about what I held on to, is that at the time I needed to do something. I needed to manage that chaos, and so it wasn't the wrong decision. But it's not something I'd actually advise for most other people. Be kind to yourself, take your time. I love when people say have your friends help out. One really important thing that my friend helped out with is I threw away his wedding ring on day 3. um, and she got it from the trash and she gave it back to me. And then I was able to let that go months later in on a big anniversary for us, a big day for us, in a way that really kind of honored our relationship better. And then after the fact, the small things that I kept are pieces of his career and legacy that we talk deeply about and that mean a lot to me. And small things that didn't mean a lot to everybody else. We had a flag that sat up on the bookshelf. He was a Marine, and it was folded perfectly, but that's just because he loves things done perfectly. Like he had to have the perfect folded flag. And so it looks like it came from a funeral or something. And people would walk in because he was a Marine. They're like, "Oh, what's the flag from?" And he'd lean in and he's like, "It's just a flag." And so it was kind of this like random little household joke we had. And then at Arlington, of course, there was going to be a question of who got the flag, and that can be really emotionally charged. And so that was really powerful because I could tell the family, "Don't worry, you have the flag, I have my flag." And so there are certainly things that to keep because their meaning changes over time and they can become quite beautiful and powerful.
So the theme of all these videos is that widows handle things differently, and I can speak to that because I've been widowed twice. The first time to cancer and the second time to suicide. Um, Deborah was the first person that I was widowed from, and after she died, I moved multiple times and downsized each time. And it was easy to get rid of things because I wasn't in the same home. I left some things behind uh, in the home for her adult children. So I downsized pretty quickly. After Anne, however, we shared a lot more things. We were camping and hiking and doing things together. She brought a lot of what she called gear to the marriage, right? So all of those things. And uh, I live in an 800 square foot condo. So it's a lot of stuff. And so I've gotten rid of very few things. And I've noticed that the energy level of living in a house with the things makes it hard to get rid of the things. And so I'm in a vicious cycle. And also, having been widowed twice is exhausting. And so I think that's part of what's taking me so long is I'm just exhausted. The hardest things for me emotionally are her shoes by the front door. To me, they all seem like the same shoes, but she was convinced that they were different boots. And so I guess I'll see ultimately what I keep. Right. And like all of you, there are things that she made. So certainly I'll keep those, or things with great sentimental value. Right.
What are things that you kept that you didn't realize you'd want to hold on to for forever? Because like I know there are certain things I kept that I started using myself that I realized, oh my gosh, I am never going to give this away. And I think like for example, like his hand drill, he has a Makita hand drill. And I gave a lot of his tools and things to his family, but I kept the hand drill initially because I mean, it just was something that he always used. But then now that I've learned how to use it and I've, been applying it to things, I'm just like, I don't know, it's mine now. And I really like that about it. Like, it's not just his anymore. Like, there are some things that I've claimed for me. And that's kind of nice.
I decided to keep Joe's watches and wear them. Now the trend is to wear big watches, so I guess I'm lucky in that way that I don't look ridiculous. But I'm going to wear them, and I think someday I'll give them to my nephews. But for now, I enjoy them and the memories that come with that. And also pocket knives. We had this philosophy that every keychain should have a pocket knife on it, and every vehicle should have a pocket knife. We have more Swiss Army knives than you can count. And I've kept every single one, and I can't believe how often I use them. I mean, I always had them around, but now I get it. I get it.
So one thing that I kept that I was surprised of at the beginning because I got rid of so many things was that there was a flag. It's called a guidon that Tim had from when he was a company commander, and it's faded, hung over a post in Afghanistan, and has the wear and tear of being there. And at first, the only reason I didn't get rid of it right away is that I didn't want my walls to be empty. But now I'm going to keep it longer. It'll eventually go to his kids because that's where it belongs. But I am going to keep it for a while longer because it has become very powerful for me to know that we had a lot of very deep conversations around some pretty hard topics. And in the process of me being able to say, did I do enough? Did I do enough? What did I know? I wish. And in the process of letting go, one of the meaning that's taken on for me is to know that we did do a lot. We did have a deep relationship. We did have a close conversation about some really, really hard things. So I'm very thankful that I kept it on my wall, and it still hangs on my wall, and it's still a really important reminder to me.
As like a tip to other people, checking pockets, making sure you check inside everything is, I think, really important for people to think about.
That's a really good point.
I did that. So my family took a lot of things. I gave clothing and shoes to my brothers and my husband's best friend. And that just felt so nice to me for them to have those things, because I know that he would have wanted them to enjoy those things and make use out of them, right? Finally, I had this enormous pile of clothing and shoes. And one day I woke up and said, I'm just going to do this. I loaded it up in the car and I went to the homeless shelter after work. And the woman who carried everything in with me said to me that yesterday they ran out of men's clothing and they prayed to St. Elizabeth for more. And here I am, the answer to their prayers. And I told her what happened and why I was bringing everything in. And she hugged me and we cried. And it was just the most beautiful moment to know that all these things were going to go help people who really need it, people who are really down and out. I never would have imagined dropping off that much stuff at a homeless shelter would mean so much and really help in my healing process. It was a pretty great feeling for me.
So in my case, I had an easier time, like I mentioned, downsizing after Deborah died, just because I did so much moving. And ironically, at the time, because of all the moving, that felt exhausting. With Anne, because it's in my house, I haven't really needed to move it. And so I haven't been. In fact, after Deborah died, I remember judging folks who took a long time to get to it. So here I am. But one of the things that I was able to organize is things in the garage. We had, like I mentioned, a lot of hiking equipment and those kinds of things. And so that was a lot easier to organize because it's in the garage. I'm not living in it. And frankly, my condo association needed me to have it organized. So that was an incentive to get to that. And I had neighbors help. Some of the things that Anne had a zillion books. So there are things in the storage unit that I need less access to. until I'm able to downsize those as well and make decisions about what to keep and what not. After Deborah died, it was exhausting to move, but easier to downsize. She was a large woman, and so I felt good donating some of her clothes, because lots of times when people get donations, it's because somebody's getting rid of something because they've grown larger. And so they get a lot of small clothes. And so I felt good about being able to donate larger sizes. After Anne, it's the opposite, where I didn't have to move, so that's less exhausting, but the living in the space where all the things are has been trickier.